And coming up, with Congress now in gridlock over government funding, what will it take to avoid another shutdown? Jim Pfaff, president of the Conservative Caucus, will join us to discuss. And welcome back to the Capitol Report. Congress needs to reach a funding agreement by the end of this month. What will it take to avoid a budget crisis? We welcome Jim Pfaff, the president of the Conservative Caucus and former chief of staff for Congressman Thomas Massie. Jim Pfaff, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Jim, government funding for fiscal year 2024 expires at the end of this month. With an unlikely chance Congress will come to an agreement on funding for 2025 by then, what will this mean, and how do you think the government will get to a continuing resolution to fund the government to ultimately avoid a shutdown?
Well, as people have probably heard in the news, or possibly heard in the news, there is an effort, which, by the way, I support, to add the SAFE Act, which is the bill that I believe Chip Roy from Texas has introduced to require citizenship verification in elections. The Democrats are likely to push against that. The goal, as I understand it, is to add that to a continuing resolution that would go into March of next year, instead of getting rid of the entire fiscal year, going all the way to September, or having a December showdown in the lame duck session. And so that's presently what's on the table.
Now, within the Republican Party, there seems to be some disagreement. You have Freedom Caucus members that want certain things with regard to how long the continuing resolution should be. Some want it extended into 2025, while others prefer starting with a clean slate if Trump were to be elected. Could you contrast these two, I guess, conflicting ideas, and what risks do the Republicans run if they are not kind of in solidarity or at least on the same page heading into the general election?
Well, this is always a risk in recent years. I mean, from 2010, when I first showed up on Capitol Hill as a chief of staff, this rancor between factions in the Republican Party has been pretty consistent, causing the House Freedom Caucus to emerge. But what puts Donald Trump at risk if they only extend this to December is that he's going to likely get spending that will not be anything that he can try to put his finger on and control. And if they do pass a bill to further extend it in December, it's going to likely go all the way to September of next year, taking out an entire budget year that he could be influencing. While, by the way, Congress can't even get its own budget cycles worked out. Like this actually should have happened to September this year, but they couldn't even work together. They keep doing these continuing resolutions. We need a full budget process. So if they go to March, there's an opportunity for Trump and supposedly a Republican Congress to put their mark on future spending and get out of this Pelosi level spending that we're doing right now.
Jim, just briefly, right now it seems to be the economy is like the top issue for most people, but you have the battle of inflation versus the battle of the stock market. What do you say to those folks who may see their 401ks doing well right now under the Biden administration?
Well, I would say that there are many serious economists who are making it very clear, including some concerns that are seeping out of certain board members of the Federal Reserve, that there is a recession coming. So if you don't want to lose that value, you need to deal with that recession, which will never happen if Kamala Harris becomes president and enacts her proposed $5 trillion tax increase and massive expansion of regulation, which will make any coming recession far worse than anyone can imagine.
Jim Pfaff, really appreciate your perspective. Thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for having me, Steve.